Hey everybody, this is the Sliders Review, and I'm here today to talk to you about The Legend of Korra, Seasons 1, 2, 3, and 4, Part 2. Opal. Opal is one of two non-benders that Sulin has. And Sulin, of course, is the daughter of Toph. And so later on it is revealed she is an airbender because of the harmonic conversions. And so it's interesting that this family of earthbenders has like an airbender in their family. So of course in season 3 when she's introduced, she is going to learn with Tenzin and all of them. And for the most part, she's a nice, quiet person, voiced by Alison Stoner, my favorite stoner in the world. And so, like, she's nice, she's sweet, and when she finds out Lynn is like her aunt, she wants to get to know Lynn, but Lynn wants nothing to do with her because of her mother. This really hurts her and stuff. And one time she saw that her mother and aunt was about to fight and she broke it up. Later on, Lynn later apologized to her and stuff. She starts a romantic relationship with Bo Lynn. And for the most part, they're sweet on each other until the events of season 4 when he joined Kavara's army and stuff. She pleaded with him like not to go, but he did it anyway. And eventually, when he learned his lesson, he tried to come back and she kind of just pushed him to the side. But eventually they did like make up and everything. Kai. Kai is part of the Earth Kingdom and he found out that he's now an airbender in the events of season 3. Kai is basically like Aladdin. He's like a thief and a con artist and stuff. He lives on the street and that's how he survives. He's always pickpocketing people's like wallets and stuff. When he learns that he's an airbender, he uses it to his advantage to steal people's like money. Mako and Bolin kind of like mentor him a little bit in the events of season 3 because Bolin sees him as like their little brother, somebody who's like them, grew up on the streets and had to do whatever it took to survive. Now, Kai has like really dark skin. It's similar to that of the people of the Water Tribe, but he's not Water Tribe, he's Earth Kingdom. Was his mother part of like the Water Tribe? Who knows? Or his father? Who knows? However, something I've noticed in the Legend of Korra, there are more Indian characters in the Earth Kingdom now. The first time we ever saw one was that Guru in season 2 of the original series. He was the only dark-skinned person to live in like the Earth Kingdom, making people assume he could be South Asian. It's never really truly been revealed, but that is the speculation. Now, of course, this series took place after the last Airbender movie, where there were Indian characters of the Fire Nation. I truly believe the characters took inspiration from that and started introducing more Indian characters in like the Earth Kingdom and stuff. And as you know, in the live action Netflix show, pretty much every Earth Kingdom person is Indian. However, Toph will be made to be like Asian, just like she was in the rest of them were in the original series and stuff. Pretty much after like getting captured by the Earth Queen and everything and being rescued, he later turns over a new leaf and he starts to like Janara. So basically he becomes a whole lot better person, putting his past in the past. And he's a really cool character who would do anything to save his new home, being that up at the air temple and stuff, and protecting his air nomad folks. He even rescues like Janara when she's captured with the rest of like the Sky Bison when the Sky Bison were being hunted down. 6 years later in the events of season 4, He, along with the rest of the new airbenders, have their new spiffy looking air gliding suits and everything. And he helps out in the war, taking out like the mechanized suits and this and that. Aang grandkids, Tenzin's kids. So I love Tenzin's kids. Aang has some awesome grandkids. Like there is Janara, she's the oldest. There is Iki, who is the middle child, who's my favorite. Then there's Milo, who is just like hilarious. And like the second like oldest kid, I keep thinking middle kid. Now I forget they have four. There's a new one, but he's just a newborn baby. And so they are awesome. They are airbenders and very good. They are able to take down grown adults and mechanized suits and stuff like that. Because they're young and like full of joy and not so stuck up like Tenzin, they are able to, airbend a whole lot better like Aang. They're younger, they're shorter, and they're free-spirited and stuff. Milo is like the most arrogant one. He's just a rude little kid. Like, it was so funny in season 1 when he answered the phone, is all like, "Who is this? It's 6 in the morning. This better be important." He likes to fart bend and stuff like that. And in season 4, like he starts to become way more arrogant. He grew his hair out. He fell in love with some random stranger girl that he met and stuff like that. And he becomes a little bit sexist like Sokka and everything. When it comes to Iki, she's just full of joy. She's excited. She's just always bouncing around the place. She tends to get picked on by like her other siblings and ran off one time to go find, I think, a bunch of like wild bison or something like that. And speaking of bison, this is just getting on my nerves. It's like, where did they come from? Well, in the comics, Aang found some that were being taken care of by like these like Fire Nation people. And I'm just like, really? Just like that? You couldn't just have Appa make a baby with somebody, like another animal or something? But anyway, she hates to read and stuff like that. Janara, on the other hand, is the most different of the entire group. She is like her father. She is more serious and everything. And not only that, but she is in touch with her spiritual side, something her father is not and is jealous of. She's so in touch with her spirit side that she's able to see the spirits when they're just wandering around like the earth and stuff, and in their visibility cloak. She's able to like travel astral projection style, which is really odd because we've never seen nobody do that. But whenever she has to go a faraway distance to give like somebody a message, she's able to do that. It's never really truly explained how she's able to do this, and we've never seen nobody else do this other than the Avatar. It is stated that Iroh was able to do this, but only stated that, he has some type of connection to the spirit world and has been there. But it never explained how he got there in the original series. When we started seeing this astral projection and spiritual side of her, I started to think, could something weird happen in the universe where she could be like part Avatar or something like that? Anything could happen, but no. Now, she always wanted her tattoos, but her father would never give them to her. And so eventually, after proving herself at the events of like season 2 and season 3, she finally got her tattoos and her bald head, kind of looking like a female version of Aang. By season 4, in the 6-year time jump, she regrew her hair back out, and she helped the rest of her family, like, defeat the mechanized robots and stuff, or suits, during like the invasion of like Kavara. Jannar is voiced by Kierman Shipka, who plays Sabrina in The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, and Iki is voiced by, I forget her name, but she was the older version of Penny from Desperate Housewives. Aang and Katara's kids. So they had three. And it's interesting because they all have different personalities and eye color and stuff. You have Kaya, you have Bumi, and you have Tenzin. It's a little confusing on their age because of the simple fact, like, it's weird, you know what I'm saying? Because it's like, Boomy is supposed to be the oldest one, but he has brown hair. Then you have Kaya, who's the middle child, but she has gray hair. And then you have Tenzin, who's bald only because he's an air nomad. Originally, Kaya was supposed to be the oldest, but they decided to change it up. Tenzin, we knew he was the son of Aang and Katara, but we didn't know he had siblings until the very end of season 1 when Bumi showed up. Bumi resembles that of the original Bumi and even has like his personality. We didn't know about Kaya until like the second season when she's introduced. When it comes to that of like, his kids, it's weird because it's kind of like, okay, first let me get through with this for the whole Kaya thing. Kaya, that's the original name of Katara from the original series, but then they changed it. So that was nice they gave it to her. In season 2, we have like, they are like the B plot of like the show. All the A stuff is with Team Avatar, and then the B plot is with like Aang's kids. And honestly, I prefer the B plot over the A plot. Aang's kids are really interesting and add much depth and emotion and heart to that of season 2. And it's because we find out that Aang was a neglectful father. He only hung out with Tenzin because Tenzin was the airbender at that time. And it was heartbreaking to hear like Tenzin talking about, oh, all the great times we had as a family, going on vacation, riding this animal, doing this scene, this play. And for Bumi and Kaya to be all like, nah, we didn't do none of that. That was only you and dad. He didn't take none of us and stuff. I cannot believe they made Aang that way as an adult. I will never forgive the creators for what they did to Aang as an adult. And of course, sidelighting Katara and everything. Like, the fact that Aang became a neglectful father is just very shocking. Nothing suggested that when he was younger and stuff, that he would have favoritism. And so, when it comes to that of Kaya, she is a horrible waterbender. I'm sorry, but she is. She doesn't bring no water skins with her. She tends to run out of water. She can hold her own against the bad guys, but only for a short time because they always get the advantage over her. It's shocking because she's Katara's daughter and Aang's daughter. You think she'll be better than that. Boomy was a oh wait, also with Kaya, it's revealed in the comics she's a lesbian and stuff. This is why she doesn't have no kids. Now Boomy, he is just as kooky as the original Boomy. Originally he was a non-bender, but he is a army general and stuff. Well, former now. And when it comes to him, he's always telling these wild, outlandish stories about him and his troops and how he was able to defeat the bad guys and this and that. But you don't know if these are true or not, and Tenzin does not seem to believe it. It seems he has an over, like, imagination and stuff. And it makes you wonder how he became a general. So by the end, the beginning of season 3, it's found out because of the events of season 2 that he is now an airbender. Personally, I did not want to see him be an airbender. I wanted him to be a fire or like an earthbender because of the simple fact that like Aang's kids, we already got one airbender, one waterbender, and just make this dude earth or fire. Like, why make him air? But it's to get under Tenzin's skin. Him and Tenzin don't get along because they are the polar opposites and stuff. And so Boomy, you know, he befriends like the spirit world and or the spirits and stuff, and he even has like a little buddy. He helps rescue like, you know, a lot of the kids and other stuff in his own goofy kind of way. He turns out to be a pretty okay like airbender for like the first time. Not really great, but he's able to like, you know, dodge a lot of the heavy like firepower and stuff. By season 4, him and Kaya are pretty much non-existent. When they do show up, they're just background characters who barely say anything, if anything at all. Tenzin, on the other hand, is the opposite of Aang. He's very serious. He doesn't like goofing around. He takes everything very seriously, especially the training of like Korra. In a way, he's kind of like a surrogate father figure mentor to that of Korra, and she is very rude towards him and stuff, but he keeps trying his best. He wants to be as great as his father, but he keeps failing at everything. He's not in touch with his spiritual side. He doesn't really know how to like teach and lead like other airbenders and stuff, and it takes like the kids and like his siblings to help him out. When he's trying to encourage new airbenders to join him, they don't want to, and he doesn't know how to speak to them. This could be because like he's never really truly had to teach anybody other than his kids, and of course his kids are going to listen to him and stuff like that. But he is a phenomenal airbender. It's just he does tend to get his butt kicked. He loves his family to death, and he doesn't even raise his voice at his kids. His brothers and sisters, on the other hand, and other people, yeah, he will. And stuff. Now, one thing that's very confusing when it comes to Aang kids is like, why don't they look biracial and everything? Like they should be kind of like a tannish type color. Kaya resembles Katara a bit more in terms of skin tone, and Boomy for the most part he's the only one who really looks biracial kind of, because he has like a tan, but then he tends to just look like Boomy in Boomy's skin color. But Tenzin is the one that stands out the most because he just looks white. And people like have been wondering, why does he look that way and stuff. It could be because they were trying to mimic him off the voice actor J.K. Simmons and stuff. Like he looks just like J.K. Simmons, but it doesn't explain why he looks so white. And in fact, adult Aang actually looks white and everything, which is odd because he always had a bit of a yellow tint color to him in the original series. Varrick and Jung-Lee. Jung-Lee, do the thing. That's his like famous like catchphrase. Basically, he was introduced in season 2 to be more of a comedic relief. One thing about the original series is that more people were comedic and everything, whereas in the Korra series, people are more serious. He's from the Water Tribe, and he's basically Tony Stark. He is a master inventor, and he's a little bit like what's MacGyver and stuff like that. The dude can create anything. And he even created like film and movies and stuff, which he called movers. So basically he is super rich and he is super smart. And he bosses like Julie around all the time, making her do everything. Even scrub the bottom of his feet to get the calluses off and stuff. We learned that just like with Tony Stark, he has tons of girlfriends, and after he's done with them, he doesn't want nothing to do with them, which is why he created that speedboat and stuff. And so in season 2, I'm trying to think what it was. Um, During the events of like the Civil War, which he was not for, he wanted Republic City to like join in. So he framed Mako in an attempt to assassinate that of the president of Republic City. Mako ended up getting arrested and stuff like that. But Bolin and the others like was able to like free him and stuff. And he didn't feel bad about that at all. And so, like, in the events of like season 3, he mostly just helps out like with Team Avatar. In season 4, Jung Lee decides to turn on him, which devastates this man. It turns out he actually loves her and stuff. And he's so devastated by that that he's willing to ruin the plans of Kavar and blow himself up in the at the same time. Like that's how heartbroken he is. He doesn't want to live. Now it turns out Julie was just pretending to turn against him and everybody else so she can get more intel. Eventually, those two ended up getting married. And not only that, but in the comics, she becomes the new president of Republic City. Lin and Su Yin Bei Fong, voiced by Mindy Sterling, and the late actress Anne H. May she rest in peace. It was so tragic to hear how she died. They are the daughters of Toph, and they're half-sisters with different fathers. And they have two completely different personalities. At first, we didn't even know Lin had a sister to the events of season 3. That just tells you how like the creative staff just didn't really plan nothing out. So we're first introduced to Lin. Lin is more of like, you know, the hothead. She has a huge temper like her mother. She used to date Tenzin, but then they broke up before he met his new wife and eventually had kids. Lin doesn't have no kids. She's all about business and she's all about her job. She is the head of the police over at Republic City and she is an earth and metal bender. Basically, she wears a suit of armor and she has like a daggers within like her wrist area and also these like whips that come out or grapple lines that come out like, you know, the wrist area, kind of like Spider-Man's webbing. And they use it along with the rest of the police force to like climb buildings, swing from things, and even fight. It's really cool and it's really fascinating. She does not get along with Korra whatsoever. And mostly because Korra does not like, you know, listen to authority figures. Eventually they have an understanding by like the end of season 1 and that of season 2. Even though Lin is no longer with Tenzin, she still likes to joke around with him and be sarcastic and will even protect like his family. But one thing I've noticed about Lin, she's not a particularly good fighter. Armand in The Equalist was able to take her down. I barely remember what she did in season 2, but in well, I think she's no longer the head of police or something like that, but I can't remember. I think, no, she is. It was something that happened in season 1 where she stopped being the head of police because she got like arrested and stuff like that. Anyway, but by season 3, we find out she has a sister, and we find out how she got her scars on her chin. So in the flashback, we get to see Toph and her daughters. Her daughters are probably about, I don't know, older teenagers, probably, maybe 19, 18, something like that. And Sue likes to hang out with the wrong crowd. She's hanging out with a gang and she helped them steal something. Lin tried to stop it, and when she threw her whips at like her sister redirected it and it slashed her face. She's been holding that against her sister the entire time. But what she's really holding against her sister is what her mom did. Toph decided, you know what? I'm gonna rip up this police report and I'm gonna send Sue to her grandparents and pretend like this never happened. Lynn was furious, all like, how can you do this? You're the chief of police and this and that. But that's Toph for you. They literally made Toph into like a bad parent. I'll get to that a little bit more. And not only that, but it's like that's something the younger Toph would have did. I would have thought in her older years she would have changed, but she didn't. She couldn't live with what she did, and she later resigned. So Lynn has been holding that against Sue the entire time. Sue, on the other hand, has really changed since she became an adult. She is like the ruler of like the Metal City. She is a master metal bender and a heck of a lot better bender than that of her sister. Not only that, but she has a huge family and stuff. And she's still a wild spirit, but she's more tamed and everything. Even telling Korra, don't listen to Lynn, just go off, take my Jeep, and go find this like bad dude and everything. And because she likes to break the rules and bend them just slightly. But by season 4, her and Lynn end up getting captured, had to be rescued by like her daughter and that of her mother, Toph. Sue Lynn is a whole lot more fascinating than like Lynn, only because she doesn't have like an attitude and stuff. Toph. I can't believe what they did to Toph in this entire like series and stuff. So we don't know what the heck happened to Toph in the first 2 seasons, other than we see her be the head of like police, and we see her still calling Aang Twinkle Toes and stuff, which he hates as an adult. And so, like, other than that, we didn't know nothing about her other than, she had Lynn. And so we later find out, of course, in the events of season 3, that she had 2 kids and stuff. And she ripped up Sue Lynn's police report. I was kind of shocked by this because, okay, first, young Toph would have totally done that because she always broke the rules and she didn't like authority figure. But like I said before in my Avatar review, Toph started to change around season 3. She started to become a much better character, less grumpy, less mean, and also trying to help people out. So I would assume she would have been a better adult, but as we can see, she was not. And after she ripped up the police report and sent like Sue to her parents, which apparently she reconciled with her parents after the events of the original series, apparently she just couldn't take it no more because of what she did, and she quit the police force. Then after that, like, she's been missing for 25 years. She just completely abandoned her kids and they never saw her again. This pisses off Lynn. And where did she go? The Foggy Swamp. The one from the beginning of season 2 is how Aang, had the visions of Toph to begin with. We don't see none of the foggy waterbenders in the swamp, but Toph has literally been living there, finding like enlightenment and stuff, becoming a better person. Personally, I think she just feels guilty. She feels guilty for being like, because the thing is, she never gave her kids any rules. She just let them do whatever the world they wanted to, because that's how she was when she was younger. This does tend to happen with a lot of adult parents, ones that was like loosey-goosey, free-spirited at like a young age, and that's how they became to teach their kids when they got older, only to regret it when their kids do bad. Such a real world thing. And so she's just been living in the swamp, and I truly feel it's because of guilt, because of what she did. And the thing that I don't understand is how in the world is she able to see in the swamp? I mean, it's mostly water. There's some land, yes, but she's mostly hanging around that giant tree. A tree is bark, it's wood, it's not earth, it's not rock. So how is she able to see? Because remember, she is blind. Well, the writers came up with a way. They said the tree is some type of spirit tree, and it has enhanced her psionic like senses and everything. how she's able to see with earthbending doing like sonic vibrations. Okay, she's not the Avatar. This should not be happening. I mean, Katara wasn't like, enhanced, but whatever. So, because the vines go all throughout the swamp, she can now see everything. And because of what Korra did in season 2, and the vines are all over the earth, she can now see everything on the earth. Which makes you stop and wonder, when all this bad stuff was happening in season 1 and 2, why the world didn't she do anything? And it's because she said, she's old and gotta let the young kids do stuff. This is such a cop out, and I hate when the writers do that. But basically, she wouldn't even help like Korra get the poison out her body. Instead, she just gave Korra some advice and told her how to metal bend it out her body and stuff, when she could have done it herself. But when it came to her kids, she finally got her butt up and went to go help. Showing that she can still bend with the best of them and everything. She is still cranky as ever. Now, she doesn't have no loud outbursts, but sorry about that, my camera died. She's still cranky, but she doesn't have her outbursts, but she's still just as rude as ever, and especially to Bolin. Maybe because she knows that he has a love thing for like Opal, who knows, you know what I'm saying? And so like, yeah, this is just where she's been the entire time. After she rescued her daughters, she has a heart-to-heart with Lynn, basically talking about, I know I wasn't the best parent and this and that, and she just hopes that one day she could forgive her and stuff like that. And I'm so glad they wrote that in there, because it shows she does have a heart and she does actually love people and stuff. And it's just weird, because, it's weird seeing her so tall. But she does reveal one of the parents and everything, like the fathers, talking about like how, I think he was a violinist. He was a nice guy, just not for her and everything. Showing that she doesn't like nice guys. She likes a little bit of the bad boy side and everything. After that, I think she just went back to her tree. Baytar Jr. He's whipped. That's all you gotta know. The man is beyond whipped. He is Suyin's oldest son. I don't think he's a bender. He is engaged to Kavira, and basically he betrayed his entire family, Sofu, the Metal City, all for her and her glorious plan and everything. The only thing that snapped him out of it is when Kavira, like, he told her, hey, look, man, look, I'm in this building, my family's in this building, like, they say that they're gonna keep us apart and everything. I don't want that because I'm whipped, so don't fire on the building, blah, 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 blah. She fired anyway and nearly killed the dude. So that's when he betrayed her and stuff. Dude is whipped and everything. Azumi Sato, played by Seychella Gabriel. So what's interesting about her is that she was actually Princess, what's her name? The Moon Spirit girl, who Sokka was in love with, Yue and everything. She was Princess Yue in the live action last Airbender movie. And so it doesn't make no sense, because she's like Latina, and I don't know what race the dude played her father, and that movie was a mess. But when I heard this, I'm like, oh wow, that's nice of them to like, cast her in their show, because oh my god, man, that movie was horrible and stuff. But like, yeah, but they didn't really do her no favors in this show, because of the simple fact she's a non-bender. She's from the Earth Kingdom, and like she help runs like her father's like business, and of course her father is evil and turned against them and stuff. They put her in a love triangle with Korra and Mako. Basically, she started dating Mako, and then when her father turned out to be evil, at some point they broke up, and then they also broke up because of like the whole Korra thing, because Korra liked him, and Then, that was that. Then in season 2, she becomes friendly with Korra. And then also in season 3 and in season 4, they kind of have like, a disagreement. And then in the finale, it's revealed that they are love interests. That just came completely out of nowhere. Apparently, this was planned, but Nickelodeon just was never going to do nothing like that. So they just snuck it into like the final scene of the show when they go into the spirit world for like a vacation and their love interest. In the comics, they start becoming girlfriend and girlfriend. And it's just weird because it's kind of like all three of them dated each other. And it's just kind of like, is there no boundaries? Like, are you really gonna date your ex's ex? Like, come on now. And y'all all are friends and all fought together. Now, she is a skilled fighter and everything. She normally uses those electrical gauntlet gloves and everything to fight people, or a mechanized suit whenever she can get her hands on one of them. However, she's basically just a chauffeur. Like, after the whole love triangle of season 1, that's all she does after that. She's the chauffeur. Whenever they need a getaway ride, she's there to drive them away. Her role started to become reduced more and more as the series kept going towards the end. And it wasn't until like season 4 they actually gave her a pretty good action scene with her father, only for him to sacrifice his life to save hers. And it's just kind of like she deserves so much better than what they did, the love triangle and then the chauffeur thing. Now, originally in season 1, she was supposed to be an equalist. She was supposed to be a mole, but they decided not to do that. They should have, because they would have gave her character something to do and a storyline that was her own. Mako and Bolin, they're twin brothers. One has a firebender and the other one's an earthbender. Their father was an earthbender who later went to the Fire Nation and, met their mother. And both their parents died. And the only thing they have of their parents is like the red scarf that their father had. And so that is what Mako wears. Now, Mako is voiced by David Fesnino, I think that's how you say his name, Bud Bunny from Married with Children. And so they are basically the Sokka and Zuko of like the show. Mako has a bit of arrogance to him. He has a bit of stubbornness to him and attitude. But he does care and he will protect his brother no matter what. And he will protect Korra no matter what. He first starts off not really liking Korra that much, but then later on starts to like her, but then starts a relationship with Azumi. Only for him to still have feelings for that of Korra. And they like kissed and stuff like that. Cheater, cheater. And so eventually they break up at the events of season 2, somewhere like early on in the beginning. Because I think, what was it? Something, I think he doesn't trust her uncle or something like that. I can't remember which one it is. And he sided with like her father or something like that. But he said, no matter what, whatever you want to do, I will go along with you. This, of course, caused them to break up. And then he kissed Azumi. And then when Korra came back, she forgot they broke up. And because she had lost her memory and stuff. After they stopped the whole love triangle thing, they started to push him more and more, reduce his role and stuff. And he became more into law enforcement. Now, when it comes to that of the red scarf that he wears, something happened where I think somebody tried to touch it or something or make him remove it, and he wouldn't do it. It has significance to him, but we don't know exactly what that is. And so he's also like a lightning bender, but we never really get to see him do that, which would come really handy if he was to do it. Now, by season 2, he's no longer in the pro bender thing, and he's now a cop and very dedicated to his job. And I kind of like that. That's cool. He's a really good detective. And So what is it? I'm trying to think. Season three, like I said before, his role just started getting reduced more and more. Now he ended up becoming like, somewhat friends with like Prince Wu. Prince Wu is the new prince of the Earth Kingdom, about to be the new king and stuff like that. He's his bodyguard and can't really stand him and stuff like that. But he does help like, Prince Wu become like a better person who's like all self-absorbed and stuff. Now, Bolin is the comedic relief, but he's not as zany as Sokka. He, just like his brother, grew up on the streets, and they live in like, I think they live in the arena or the gym of like the pro bending thing because they don't have no parents and they don't know who their relatives are. And so they're poor. And one time when they needed money, Mako joined like a gang, and not Mako, but Bolin joined the gang, and Mako had to like get him out of it. Now, Bolin had a crush on Korra. Then he had one on Azumi. Then he had one with Eska, and then later on Opal and stuff. So just like with Sokka, he's like a ladies' man, but he could never get Korra or Azumi. And so by season two, him and Azumi starts to hang out like Asami. I keep saying Azumi. Asami. They started hanging out like way more and stuff. But by season two, you can tell they had nothing for him, and he became a movie star. Nut Tuck, and because of Varric and everything. And he just became this big movie star, and that's what all he really did in season two until his brother got framed for trying to assassinate like the president of Republic City. So then he had to like free him and stuff. By season three, he tries to be a metal bender but is unable to do it. And when they are in prison and they have to like bend the metal around them, which by the way, when they was in the prison, why didn't Mako just try to burn like the bars down? We see him eventually do that later on, but he should have did it before. And why didn't Bolin just bend the rock that are the walls? They're made of rock, they're not wood. So, and if it was wood, then Mako could have burnt that down. It's like they didn't even pay, the writers didn't even pay attention to what kind of cell they was in. So he tries to metal bend and is unable to. But when he has to fight that lava bender, Gaizon and everything, he's trying his best to like metal bend and stuff like that, but eventually ends up lava bending, which he had no idea he could do. So you assume he'll be doing that a lot in season 4, right? Nope. Instead, he's still just earthbending, and he later joins Sarahira's like metal bending army and everything. Even when they turned bad and Mako tried to like warn him, and so did Opal and stuff. He literally turned his back on his family and friends, only to find out that she's cuckoo in the head, and him and Varric try to like escape and all this other stuff. In season 3, we actually get to see his relatives when they go to the Earth Kingdom in Ba Sensei. Apparently, they just stumble upon his cousin, and like they introduce them to like the grandparents and the rest of the cousins. This felt just completely rushed and came out of nowhere, but hey, at least we got a little backstory into their father and stuff like that. But none of his cousins knew that like their dad was dead. And it's like nobody went to go look for them or nothing. I don't get that. But they rescue their family and take them to the Metal City once Ba Sensei got ransacked by like looters and stuff. Avatar Juan, played by Steven Yeun from The Walking Dead, and his avatar spirit, Rava. So, in season 2, we finally got an answer that so many people have probably asked. Who was the first avatar? Which I've never asked that. I just never really thought about it. I thought about the ones that came like maybe before Kyoshi, before that one waterbender, that airbender, but I never really thought about who's the first one. And so some people feel like maybe they had no business trying to explain this. Personally, for me, like, you do get kind of curious. Like, even though I never wonder who was the first one, you do kind of stop and ask, why is the avatar able to bend all four elements? Why are they linked to the spirit world? Why do their eyes glow? And this and that, you know what I'm saying? And why are they reincarnated? And so the creators, they came up with a very clever way to explain all this. Some of it's a little too complicated at times that need to be expanded on just a little bit more, you know what I'm saying? Personally, this should have been its own show, or it should have been split with the second season of Korra's story. Like as she's learning to master the avatar state or go into the spirit world or whatever they're going to do with her, 10 minutes, about, well, not 10, but I say 13 minutes on her, 13 minutes on him, you know what I'm saying? And get a bunch of flashbacks because they had to cram his entire story in one singular episode. I felt like it should have expanded to a couple of more and a couple of more flashbacks. But for the most part, what we got pretty much did explain everything. And I mean everything. But while explaining everything, and we finally got the answer, it left open a whole bunch of more questions that get you a little confused. So basically, Juan was just like, a thief, a con man, and very selfish. Basically, back in ancient times, people used to live on lion turtles on the back of them, the same type of lion turtle we saw at the end of season 3 of the original series. So they even tried to tie that in, because one of the things that always confused me is, what is the deal with lion turtles and how are they able to bend energy and teach it to Aang and everything? There's always been 4 elements. Now there is a 5th. And it came completely out of nowhere because the creators had to think of a way for Aang to stop Ozai without murdering him. So they came up with an interesting story for that of lion turtles. Lion turtles, like I said before, they swim around the ocean and they have like these giant like land on their back, and people used to live there. People who lived on the back of a lion turtle, they left to go to like the actual world, you know what I'm saying, to look for food and stuff like that. But they never encountered other humans from other lion turtles and never knew they existed. In order to hunt, the lion turtles would give these humans the ability to bend. Only one lion turtle has only one element they can give a human. So the one from Juan's county is like, fire bending and stuff. They gave them this ability because the spirits don't like humans and they will attack them and stuff. Now, this still doesn't explain, can all lion turtles energy bend or can they not? So that's a question that needs to like be answered. Or is it just that one Pacific one that Aang met? Also, why are they only tied to one type of bending? You know what I'm saying? But who knows? You know what I'm saying? They all look different from one another. The one that gave Aang the ability to energy bend looks kind of like the one from Fire, but we don't really know. Also, how many are there exactly? Are there multiple ones or are there just 4? Now, I read online that lion turtles were hunted by the humans after they gave them bending and stuff. The humans later turned on like spirits and stuff like that. Well, at least the ones from the Fire Nation. Go figure. But apparently they've all been hunted down, and I guess there's only one left, the one that gave Aang fire bending. This was over 10,000 years ago. So it makes you wonder just how good were these humans at hunting them. And like, why is there only one left? Also, like, why did the one that's left, why didn't he continue to give other people firebending? Is it because he felt that humans are just too evil with it? But if so, why help Aang and all this other crap? see answers. Like, also, if they all can bend all the elements, why didn't they recreate the airbenders and stuff? Or better yet, why didn't the creators just say, hey, instead of harmonic conversion, the lion turtle of air decided to start making airbenders again? That would have been a heck of a lot easier to write in your own story than harmonic conversion and stuff. But I digress. So Juan tricked these people into going hunting, to go hunting with, and so he got the ability to bend fire. But he lied to these people just so he can go back home and help out that of, I'm guessing, his friend and maybe his family grandfather, I'm not sure, who half of his face turned into wood because of a spirit. He plans on stealing food from, like, the emperor and stuff. Got caught, and the lion turtle banished him from, like, the land into the actual land where the spirits live, but he allowed him to keep the bending to defend himself. Basically, we see the spirits just being completely rude to him and stuff. Then after that, he sees like some type of antelope type creature that got hunted in the net. He freed it. This pissed off the humans that he had already pissed off, but the spirits decided, hey, maybe you're different from everybody else. You're actually nice and protected that animal. So they decided to keep him and let him live with them, and they called him Stinky. He's kind of like their pet. While there, he decided to travel the land and start perfecting his fire bending, where he met a dragon, and he started doing the dragon dance the way the Sun Warriors did. So the Sun Warriors fire bending literally came from him, that came from the dragons, and it was around 10,000 years ago. And this would have been helpful if they would have said that in season 3 of the original series, other than saying it came from dragons. But it does make you wonder how he realized that doing this dance could improve his fire bending. Anyway, this is when he met Rava and Vatu. They fought, he got lied to, and he freed them. They're supposed to be connected, because if one gets away, then Rava can like corrupt other spirits and probably people too. And that's exactly what he did. So Rava wanted nothing to do with him, and Rava started to get smaller and smaller. He decided he's gonna help her, and so he decided, if I'm gonna help you, I gotta learn other bending, because he met some airbenders and stuff. This is what taught him that other people are around the world and there are other lion turtles. So he went to each nation on the back of the lion turtles, asked for their bending, and they gave it to him. Why? Because he pretty much told them that, yo, I freed an evil spirit and I gotta stop it, and I need some power. And so they just straight up gave it to him. And it's just kind of like, this is where more episodes could expand upon, because why did they all just agree? But the lion turtle tells him straight up, no human can bend more than one element. This is how the avatar is able to bend all 4 elements. Rava literally has to go in him to kind of hold the element and stuff and allow him to use it and stuff. And it's a weird explanation, and it's completely rushed. In order to use it, he needs her help, like a spirit help. After a while, he learned that combining with Rava increases his power, aka the glow and everything, going into the avatar state. And so after a while, here comes the harmonic conversions, the big fight and everything, and they need each other's help more than ever. So they combined again. But before they do that, he meets the humans that he was friends with. They're now all living in the real world and everything, and they just straight up kill spirits because they just don't like spirits. And they say, well, we just see a spirit, good or evil, we're gonna kill it. This causes the spirits and the humans to hate each other even more. And so back to the harmonic conversions and everything, we now find out how exactly he's bonded with Rava permanently, and like how he's the bridge between both worlds. Basically, Rava kept getting her butt kicked. She's really teeny tiny. He needed more power, so she went inside him. And it increased his power, but as he was getting his butt kicked, he fell back and he touched the magical portal that allows humans to go to and from, and also spirits, into the real world and spirit world. By touching this yellow portal, it infused his body and it combined those two permanently. And because he touched it, it now made him the bridge between both worlds. Because he touched the bridge. That is some extremely sloppy, fast-paced writing. This is why they needed more episodes to explain this. So with Rava stuck in his body permanently, sometimes they can communicate to each other telepathically or just talking to each other. But now he's able to bend all elements and he is able to go in and out of the avatar state. After defeating Vatu and everything, he decided he had to fix his mistake. Every avatar regrets something and they always end up screwing something up that another avatar has to take care of. So after this, we see him as an older man and he's in battle. He got shot up with a bunch of arrows and he died. After he died, Rava literally leaves his body and everything. This is the reincarnated cycle, which, sometimes something should never be shown. See, for most people like myself, the headcanon is that we know for a fact that the avatar reincarnates. We know that they're just the living embodiment of the person that came before them. For most people who either know about reincarnation or don't, most people get the gist of you die, your spirit goes into like the next body, and like you're reborn in somebody else's body. Most people get the gist from if they saw or heard something like this before. So that's how we assume when we saw the original series. Roku died and then bam, Aang was born and everything. And we automatically assume that just the avatar magic stuff just automatically goes in him, but without seeing it. And as for why people have bending, like I said before, this is kind of cool with the lion turtles and it gives an explanation to them and everything. Because I always assume it's just the forces or nature or spirits or the deity in charge of everything just decided, hey, wouldn't it be interesting to give these people powers? And they're like, hey, these people with powers are a little too powerful. We need somebody who's more powerful than them to keep them in check. And why not connect them to the spirit world? Kind of like a Highlander thing. There are normal humans and then there are immortals and everything. Nobody knows why, it just is as it is. And that's how I always assumed it was with the whole avatar and benders and non-benders and stuff. But now we know actual creatures gave them powers and stuff. And as for the reincarnated cycle, you always assume it's just the whole avatar-ish whatever being infused into like another person's body. Now we know it's not actually the human avatar soul that goes into the next person's body. It is Rava and everything. Rava literally has, I'm assuming, the combined consciousness and souls of like past avatars like infused in her body. I'm also assuming that, she's the one who has the ability to like absorb all the bending, store it in her body and then pass it along until like the next human and stuff, which now means it's just not like a random occurrence that a person just happens to be a bender. She literally goes and look for like a new person. But why does she go for like a newborn baby? Why doesn't she go into a fully grown adult? I mean, if the world is in chaos and they need an avatar, why not just go into an adult to finish up like what the other person did, Also, it's like, how does she know these people are going to be good or bad? We've seen she does not possess the power of insight. She could very well pick like a lazy or a bad person, which she has before. The Avatar, the waterbender that came before Kiyoshi, he was lazy. He let everybody else solve their own problem. Kiyoshi had an attitude and literally separated her island from like everybody else. And like, so she doesn't pick necessarily the best people and stuff. And so it's like, I would have preferred if it just randomly, magically went into somebody else, not an actual being, floating out the mouth of one avatar and going in the mouth of like another inside the womb or whatever. And so, like, because we know that she has the combined consciousness of the souls of the past avatars, because when Korra fought like Vatu and Yuna something, whatever his name is, her uncle, like when they was combined in that mutant looking thing, he literally ripped Rava out her mouth, and then he began to like smack it around, and then he literally made her explode. And every time he kept hitting her, we saw all the past avatars just like explode and everything, breaking that cycle linked to them. But we know Rava would never die. She will always be reborn and stuff like that. And so like, but Korra has to reconnect to her. And so like, which is kind of odd and weird, because like if she's still inside Korra's body, why she gotta reconnect to her? Because I remember like that just don't make no sense. You know what I'm saying? Like if she's already in her body, but they needed something for season 4. And another thing, why doesn't Rava talk to any of the other avatars? Why did she only talk to Juan? And why did she only talk to like, Korra when Korra was almost defeated by like her uncle? Also, why does she stay completely dormant and don't have a consciousness like she did before? You see what this is starting to become like, more questions than asked. And not only that, but like, if technically this is something that's been going on for 10,000 years and a part of the Avatar's like magical ability or whatever, why do people have to master it in order to activate her, to activate the glow and everything? Like Aang literally had to like study really hard and unlock his chakras and stuff. This should technically come natural like it did Juan. So now there are more questions than there are answers and stuff. Avatar Korra, voiced by Janet Varney. Fun fact, both Korra and Janet are both bisexual. So, Avatar Korra, the most, boy, I'm telling you, like, the fan base is split when it comes to her. People either, like, well, actually, it's divided into 3 parts. You either love her, hate her, or you just think she's okay. Like, the thing about her is that the creators had to do a complete 180 of Aang. So they decided to make her just a complete opposite in every way possible from that of Aang. It's big, it's bold. It was a risk, a calculated risk, and I feel like it did not pay off. Don't get me wrong, I love her design. I think she looks great. I'm even cool with her having muscles and stuff. It is odd that a woman from the water tribe will have muscles, but it's cool. It's that tomboyness of her. I love the voice actress, and there are elements of Korra in her personality I do like. However, the problem with her is, see, the conception of her is what causes so many fans to dislike her. Because she is the opposite of Aang, Aang was a humble monk. He was polite. He was a goofball. He knew how to be serious when he finally sat his behind down and realized, oh crap, this is real. I need to get serious. but he was an extremely likable character. Something you want your hero to be. You don't want to hate your hero throughout the entire series. You want to like them. And even though he was humble and nice and kind to animals and all this other stuff, he was also flawed because of his goofy side. In the first season, he just wanted to play, even though he knows the Fire Nation is trying to take over and everything. He is flawed because he ran away from his responsibilities, and the war lasted for an extra 100 years. And like, because he was frozen in the ice cube. He is flawed because like he has to master all the elements. Some come very easy to him and others do not, like rock bending. He is flawed because he knows he has to kill Fire Lord Ozai, but he doesn't want to because he is a monk, and that goes against his entire nature. So it's like, and also he can be a little selfish when he wants to be, and he can be a little bit of a grifter and stuff. And so he has these flaws, but he always overcomes them and everything. With Korra, it's not really like that. With Korra, she's this extremely powerful person, and yes, she is more powerful than Aang because she can do things that he can't. Even though when Aang goes into the Avatar state, he has pure, untapped power and everything. Which, by the way, it really bums me out that she doesn't have that Avatar voice when she's in the Avatar state. That demonic, godlike voice, she doesn't do that like him, which is a bummer. But, like, she's this extremely powerful prodigy, and yet it's her personality that people cannot stand. Not only that, but it's the fact that she's a prodigy and we never ever got to see her train. The only thing we ever saw her train in was airbending, and she failed, but yet somehow miraculously she learned how to do it. And that's the problem with her. With all of her flaws, it is always everybody else who has to fix her problems. And if she has to fix it herself, somehow she just automatically does it because she's just so gifted somehow. She bends, but she bends the wrong way, but yet she's still able to kick some major butt. Like, take when we first met her, which is hilarious. She's a 4-year-old girl. She busts through her family's living room when the White Lotus is there. And she literally tells them straight up, at 4 years old, she is the Avatar, deal with it. That right there is a direct message from the creators to, I believe, Nickelodeon. Because like I said before, Nickelodeon felt like nobody wanted a female Avatar television series. They felt that like girls will want it, but boys would not want to have it. But the test audience proved them wrong, and that's when they greenlit the show. So I feel like it's a direct message to them. Also, it's a direct message to all those haters out there, because remember, this was around the time that the whole like fandom menace, the toxic YouTube guy started to come around. And so maybe this was a direct message to them as well. But not only like did she tell people to deal with it, she starts bending 3 of the 4 elements. And the craziest thing of all is that she bends those 3 elements perfectly, and she's never been taught. And so it makes you wonder, how the heck is this possible? She is the only one in 10,000 years to ever do this, making her feel like a Mary Sue and everything. And you know how people feel about that. Heck, Batman is literally a Mary Sue in my opinion, because the dude is literally perfect and has a plan for everything. But the fact is, yes, you can bend without learning the technique, but it's very sloppy, as we saw with both Aang and firebending, and Katara with water bending, but yet she's getting the hand motions down perfectly and everything. People's excuse is that, well, she's the prodigy, she's the avatar. No, it's the creators purposely making her this way. That alienated the fan base and everything, because she was just way too perfect. But they had to give her a flaw, so they made her a non-airbender and had a hard time doing that because they needed her to learn something like Aang learned and everything. And this was already from the start making people just not like her and stuff. Plus, the higher ups in the nations, they don't tell the avatar that they're the avatar until they're like a much older adult. This could be for a million different reasons. We know that when they told Aang this at 12 years old, he freaked out and ran away because he didn't want to have to deal with the responsibilities of having to stop, like whatever it is he had to do. And so we know that's the method of like the air nomads, but could it be the method of all the other ones and stuff? Plus, they have to be able to figure out who exactly is the avatar so they don't screw up and give somebody hopes up. Plus, if the enemy knows who the avatar is, they could kill them as a child because they have not learned bending yet. But she knew somehow at the age of 4 and everything. And so, like, that already makes her different. And so, after all that, they jump skip until she's about 17 years old. That's when the series starts. And she's learning the elements completely different. She learned them all off screen. After being a prodigy and knowing it at the age of 4, she was later taught, but she was taught in isolation. This is another problem that fans had. Because they had to be so different with her, unlike all the other avatars, not only do we not get to see her train, but we don't get to see her going around the world and wearing the different clothes of the nation being taught by that of a master. She's kept in the South Pole, and all the bender masters have to come to her. Originally, they said it was Aang that wanted this and wanted the White Lotus to protect her. But it turns out that it was actually like, her father and Tenzin and stuff, because we later find out that there was a group of people, the Red Lotus, that tried to kidnap her when she was younger. So they kind of had to retcon their own explanation as to why she was isolated. First, they blamed it on Aang, but then once they saw, like, I guess, because people love Aang, so they don't want to hate him, but they made us hate him as being a father, so they later changed it and said, oh, okay, it's her dad and stuff, and it's Tenzin. And so it sucks that she's been isolated her entire life. She doesn't know what the real world is even like. So of course she has a natural curiosity. This is what causes her to like leave the air temple of Tenzin and go to Republic City, where she causes chaos in the first episode, which was really fun. But here's the thing though. She's able to take down bending masters with ease. She's able to even take down a couple of thugs in Republic City. But she always has a hard time fighting villains sometimes. I'll get to that a little bit later. And so with her being isolated, she doesn't know how to bend air. So she has to go to Tenzin for that. And this is another reason why so many fans don't like her. Her attitude. She is extremely rude, extremely blunt, and she just completely disrespects people and doesn't feel sorry about it. When Tenzin was trying to teach her how to move like a leaf between the airbending pads or whatever they're called, she couldn't do it. The kids started making fun of her. She got pissed and completely broke all of them apart. And Tenzin's literally like, those things have been around for at least 3,000 years. They are like a relic. And she just destroyed them and did not care because she is hot-headed. Then every time he tells her to do something, she refuses, argues with him, sometimes gets in his face, and then sneaks out. Like when she went to the pro bending tournament. And instead of trying to learn air and stop the equalists in Amon, she decides she's going to play a sport, the pro bending thing, and have fun with that. And it just makes you think, like, yeah, Aang would do something similar to that. Like, Aang, he would go, like, traveling, see something he likes to play with, and go play with it. But then, his team avatar had to talk him out of it. And then he later realized, hey, I gotta, like, protect the world and everything. Things are getting serious, and I screwed up. Aang was flawed as well, but he always had that redeeming quality and stuff. Because he always felt the guilt and he always felt bad how he hurt other people by goofing off and neglecting his responsibilities. Her, not so much. And then there is the next thing about her people don't like. Her bending and stuff. Now, one thing I've always wanted to see in a full series is see the Avatar fight somebody and bend all the elements, at the same time and everything. Not just bend one that they're comfortable with and the other ones they just learn. With Aang, we got to see him airbend all throughout season 1, and then later we got to see him water bend. We didn't get to see him earthbend until season 2, halfway into season 2. And then he didn't learn how to firebend towards the end of season 3. So the only time we really got to see him bend everything was that final battle and everything. Technically, he did waterbend when he trapped himself in ice. But if you pay attention, his eyes glowed, which means he got kicked into the avatar state. He was triggered into it, which I believe. See, originally I believe it was the other avatars taking over his body and triggering it. Maybe now it's Rava, and since they retconned all that. And forced him to water bend against his will, not knowing what the world he was doing, and trapped him in ice during that hurricane. And so, so I'm thinking, cool, with Korra, I'm starting to see this. She's bending 3 of the elements, and this is awesome. The thing about her is that even though she was born in the water tribe, she rarely ever water bends at people. She does it when she's at the tournaments because that's the only thing she's allowed to do. But when she's fighting somebody, she rarely uses water. Not only does she rarely uses water, she rarely uses rock and everything. This girl loves to firebend at people. She will literally burn you in the face and everything. She's very tough and she will threaten you. Like she told her uncle, if you hurt my dad, I'm gonna hurt you and everything. She is a firebender by nature, by heart, even though she's technically a waterbender from the water tribe. But this girl, her first defense is normally firebending at somebody, which brings on her hot-headedness and everything. And it's just kind of sucks because you constantly see her fire bend, and every once in a while you'll see her bend the other elements and stuff. I wanted to see an avatar do an avatar type thing, you know what I'm saying? So I was disappointed in that. She will bend the other elements, but it's rare. And so, when she does learn to airbend, it's only because Armand took away her other 3 bending. And so the air just happened to kick on and she punched and boom, air comes out. But she doesn't do the proper technique. Even Tenzin told her that. He said, you don't airbend like an airbender, you airbend like Korra style, which is just a bunch of quick jabs and punches and stuff. And so she's not even willing, and she refuses kind of to learn the proper way and everything, which is more of her stubbornness and hot-headedness. Then the thing that's kind of weird is why is air so difficult for her? Well, it's because the creators had to create something like an obstacle for her, like Aang had with earthbending. But the problem is the creators, and this is all in the first season, so this was written by the creators. The creators wrote the entire first season and everybody else wrote the other ones. They literally stated in the original series that, like, the reason why Aang could not earthbend is because earth is the opposite of air. Air is free will, and you can move around stuff, whereas rock is very stubborn. You have to go at it full force and everything. You can't like go around it. There's no tricky trick, none of that crap. They literally explained this when he was learning to earthbend. Water and air are very similar to one another. This is why Aang was able to learn water bending so fast, because they're both very similar. Both of them are like free spirited. Both of them have to like adapt and everything. Their motions are not so much the same, but like, in order to move water, you need air to move the current of water and everything. So airbending should have came natural to her because they're very, very similar. But for whatever reason, it is not. And so they broke their own lore that has literally been explained to us so many times in like the original and stuff. So the creators thought, okay, we can give her a flaw in the ability not to airbend. But then, of course, they had her airbend when that was the only last result, because that was the only last bending she had. Then they thought, okay, well, we're going to give her the ability. Not the ability, but we're going to make her scared. We're going to make her scared of the villain. She's terrified of him because, like, he's taking away people's bending and she loves it. But that's not enough to get of a flaw. That's just her own personal fear. Aang had fears. He literally was terrified and couldn't sleep because of the Fire Lord and stuff. But his fear was more like, understanding. He's a kid and he's going against the scariest man in the world. She technically is too, but she's an older teenager and stuff. And with her being able to bend all the elements, she should be able to take him down. Because how is it she goes from being very strong, very powerful, but then every time she has to fight a bad guy, she can hold her own, but ends up getting her butt kicked. And she always makes it out of there at the skin of her teeth and everything. It's like, I don't get that. She's so powerful, but yet all of a sudden she can't fight, even in other seasons and stuff. And this is like this every season and every season finale. She always manages to get out of there at the skin of her teeth, and somebody always has to help her out. When she fought Armand, she fought him with Mako and everything. She couldn't do it on her own. And she didn't even defeat Armand. His brother did. And so the hero couldn't even defeat the villain, and that was supposed to be a standalone season. Then in season 2, when she's fighting the evil avatar, it's Janara that has to like somehow hit her with like an energy hit the villain with the energy blast. This causes Rava to like, spark and everything, and she's able to pull her out and put it back in her, go back to Super Kaiju and somehow defeat her all anime style and everything. But she needed help. In season 3, she started to fight Sahir with that of her father. But then later was able to like, defeat him on his own, but she needed help from all the airbenders and stuff. Granted, she was poisoned and stuff. Now, how this poison is supposed to trigger the avatar state and Rava is supposed to be decommissioned at this point is beyond me and never made no sense. She's no longer connected to Aang and all of them, but somehow she's able to trigger and boost her power from the avatar state, even though Rava is literally like the size of like a bug or whatever, or a flea. And so like that never made no sense. But once again, she only defeated Sahir with the help of all the airbenders and stuff. She's never able to get a win on her own. So they finally gave it to her in season 4. But the way she defeats her opponent is very odd. Like, she's fighting with Zanara, and Zanara's in the mech suit, blasting her with spirit energy. And then all of a sudden, she creates this giant, like, energy spear around her body and energy blast. So here's mech suit. How she's able to energy blast is beyond me. This is now very brand new. and it ripped open another portal into the spirit world, and she talked out of it, no, Zahara out of it. And that's how she defeated this very lame, very rushed villain, a villain that kept whooping her behind every time they fought. She talked to her and everything, and that's just kind of lame. Could you imagine if Aang wanted to talk to like Ozai, which he did, but they talked him out of that? And it was just like she finally defeated somebody, but with her words. But this is not the person we know. We know she's a hothead and she will blast you and everything. And so it's like, it's weird. She's our hero. She's always looking extremely strong and powerful when she fights our villain, but she always needs help to defeat them, if she even defeats them and stuff and somebody else doesn't defeat them. And you don't want to see a hero like that. It makes for a very lame hero. And and it's cool that she can like metal bend and can't do that. It's cool that she can literally like somehow redirect spiritual energy and just like blast it. No other avatar can do that. And then there is the whole energy bending and taking away and giving people back their bending. So she's sad, she's on a cliff, and people are starting to wonder why she's on a cliff. We know she loves bending, but all her bending is gone except for air, and she really doesn't like air. So, next thing you know, Aang shows up and just walks up behind her and stuff, or beside her. And he's not even in his spirit form in season 1. When an avatar talks to another avatar, they literally have to talk to them in the spirit world. They're glowy and everything like that. The only time they look normal is when they're still in the spirit world and they're giving a demonstration, like a prediction and stuff like that. So Aang just showing up looking all human and alive is just weird. Then here are the rest of the avatars, and it's like, why aren't they glowing and everything? And then he energy bends her, giving her back her bending. But how exactly is Aang able to energy bend her while he's a dead spirit? That don't make no sense. And why couldn't it just be Rava, or why couldn't it just be that lion turtle thingy or whatever? Then she learned very, very quickly and was able to give everybody back their bending that lost it from Amon. Now, Aang, we don't know how long it took him to learn energy bending. We know that he talked to the turtle and talking about how he doesn't want to kill Ozai. Everybody's not giving him the advice he wants. The turtle literally touches him, and in the next scene, we see the turtle swimming away from Aang. So it's a cut scene, so we don't know how long he's been taught. And then we know what the turtle taught him when they started energy bending each other. She's able to do it within seconds, and we didn't know you can give somebody back their bending that like lost it and stuff, right? Now, why doesn't she use this power on everybody else that she has a problem with? Why not Zahira? Why not Shahir? Why not like her uncle? She has this incredible power, but she never uses it and everything. So what was the point in giving it to her? Like, why couldn't they just say that, hey, there are lion turtles and we just gotta find one to give your bending back? Why couldn't they just do that? You know what I'm saying? Now, one interesting thing about her is her true flaw, is her PTSD. This was handled very nicely in the last season. 6 years has passed by, but in those 3 years, she just disappeared from everybody and didn't tell nobody. She went to the Earth Kingdom, changed her appearance, cut her hair, and was just sad and alone, and even did some cage fighting type stuff and got her butt kicked. She still had a teeny bit of poison in her, and she just felt like she wasn't good enough to be like the Avatar and stuff. She had to take advice from like, what's his face? So here she had to take advice from Toph. She had to take advice from a couple of other people to get her back into like, that state of mind and reconnect with Rava. And so like, and even when she reconnected with her and got all the poison out and gained her confidence, she still couldn't defeat her main villain. who was just a metal bender and that's it. But it was nice that she had this PTSD. You know what I'm saying? Like it lingered with her for years and years and years. It would have been nice to see her affect her in all the other seasons, but hey, you know, it was their last season. So the thing about her is that the creators literally, like, to make her so different from Aang, they ended up ruining who Korra was and everything. And they could have made her into a great hero. Like, I was really rooting for her in that first episode of season 1. But then as time passed, I just realized she's just kind of awful, and she's only awful because the creators made her awful and everything. But yet she's the most powerful one and everything, which is frustrating. So the Legend of Korra is a mixed bag of emotions. They were ambitious, they took risks, but I felt like those risks just never paid off. It was a nice attempt, but in their experiment, it was a failed experiment. The Korra series still to this day is regarded as like somewhat of a failure, not a complete failure. Some feel it's a complete failure. I feel it's a somewhat failure and everything. It did not have to be this way. The studio mailing, the writing, and the creative should have done much better in my opinion. And this is why the creators have me worried for the next project, especially being still linked to that of Nickelodeon. It's kind of like, are they gonna goof up again? You know what I'm saying? Like, I hope to God not. I hope they can make Seven Havens better. And it's ironic that the new Avatar has to clean up Korra's mess because apparently somehow she destroyed the world. Could it be because she left the spirit portal open and felt like Juan made a mistake? Because Juan decided, you know, spirits and humans need to live separately. So he put all the spirits in the spirit world. But she decided to leave the portal open and stuff like that. So who knows really what's gonna happen in Seven Havens and stuff. We got an earthbender, she's missing a leg, so that gives like representation to people who lost a limb. My only problem with that is kind of like, you know, she's gonna have to do a lot of running. So like, that's kind of gonna be difficult. They should have gave her a leg that's either made of metal or made of rock. Therefore, she's an earthbender, she could be a metal bender, and she'll be able to move a whole lot better. But like, you know, I feel like with that series, they want to correct the mistakes that they made with Korra. It's just, I wish to God they did not make Korra so unlikable and everything. Because it's only with the talk with Iroh in season 2 is what kind of gets her out of her funky little minded head and makes her a much nicer person. She still has her bite, but she's not as awful as she was in those first 2 seasons. Alrighty, well, I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.